brain edema.
No, she didn't. No.
Well, an independent medical analysis and a UN fact-finding mission determined that she did.
There was no UN fact-finding mission in Iran. Where are you getting this information? What was the name of the UN fact-finding mission team?
Welcome back to Pillarism. The corporate media is so used to guests bowing down to their loaded questions that when someone actually fights back, they completely short-circuit. That is exactly what happened when UK news anchor Shelagh Fogarty tried to run the standard Western establishment script on Professor Mohammad Marandi. She thought she was going to deliver a comfortable, uninterrupted lecture on Iran and Israel. Instead, Marandi refused to play the game. He looked her dead in the eye and brutally exposed the exact propaganda tactics the mainstream media uses to manufacture consent for war. If you are tired of anchors acting like gatekeepers instead of journalists, hit the like button, subscribe to Pillarism, and let's watch the exact moment the establishment narrative completely collapses.
The protests that are taking place, the latest round of protests, they seem to be pretty intense and pretty persistent, up to and including this latest tweet or post from the US president. What do you say is going on there? What do you say those protests are about?
Well, there are two issues here. One is that because of the U.S. sanctions and European sanctions, basically because of Iran's policy against Israel,
What is Iran's policy against Israel?
Yes, because
what is it?
The whole sanction, Iran's position
against Israel, yeah.
Yeah, Iran says that Israel is an apartheid state. It is not morally legitimate, and that Palestinians have the right to return, just like apartheid South Africa.
That it shouldn't exist.
And back then,
that it shouldn't exist. It's not. Is that
no?
What you mean?
As an apartheid entity, no.
But
apartheid should not exist anyway. Government was supporting...
I'm just trying to get a sense from, because you're close to the Iranian regime, I want to get a sense of whether...
What does that mean exactly? I'm close to the Iranian regime? Is that how you introduce academics from your own country?
No. In the way that I know that I'm close in terms of having easy access to and contact with and conversations with members of the cabinet. That's all I meant. I didn't mean...
Would you call them the regime?
Well,
would you say it like the... Yeah.
Do you want to go into that?
Yeah, sure. Well, what's the question?
Well, have there been regular democratic elections that...
No, you were talking about Israel.
Oh, okay, we'll go back
Iran's
to that.
position on Israel?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a sense of whether
Iran's position on Israel is identical to its position on apartheid South Africa. When your government was supporting the supremacist regime in South Africa, the Iranians were supporting the ANC and Nelson Mandela.
Yeah.
The same logic applies to Palestine.
Right. So it's not the existence of Israel, it's the nature of this Israeli state. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly.
That Iran's opposed to.
The state could be called Palestine, it could be called Israel, it could be called Walt Disney, but as an apartheid state for Iran, this is not acceptable.
And isn't Iran something of an apartheid state, particularly if you're a woman?
Have you ever been to Iran?
No, but there's lots of countries I haven't been to that I know about, hear about, read about, speak to.
It's not an apartheid state. No, it's not an apartheid state.
Women are dragged off the street for not wearing the veil?
No, that's not true at all.
It is true.
Well, you can say it's true, but that doesn't make it a fact.
I think most people listening know that it is true.
I live in Iran. Many journalists come to Iran. Journalists that you can invite, Jewish journalist Max Blumenthal from the Gray Zone, invite him on your show. And he's been to Iran just recently for a couple of weeks. He went to different cities on his own with his wife, who's also a journalist. Ask him if any women have been dragged off the streets anywhere that he's been to.
So you're denying that the Iranian government forces women to wear the veil, the hijab?
Well, veil is one thing.
I know it is. That's why I corrected myself. And those that don't want to...
You mean a headscarf?
The headscarf. And those that don't want to cover their hair, it's trouble for them, isn't it?
No, nothing happens to them. No, nothing happens to them. And some of my students on campus, in classrooms on campus, they don't wear headscarves. So I think, your understanding...
But is your I'm just trying to get a sense, is your assertion that in Iran, in the last decade, and even more recently than that, not a single woman, particularly a protesting young woman, has been detained and in one case died in custody with wounds from beating because she had her hair shown?
No,
You don't believe
You're
that
talking
happened?
No. Mahsa Amini had no wounds. There is no footage. There is footage of her, and in the footage there is nothing that shows that she was beaten. She had a precondition. Yes, she was taken in, but she was not beaten for her dress. There is a law in Iran about a dress code, because whether you like it or not, they believe that the way in which the West promotes women is sexualization, commodification, objectification. So they'll have their own cultural boundaries, whether you agree with it or not.
Well, you've said to
whether
me
you agree,
okay,
whether you agree with it or not, it doesn't. That's one thing. But women being dragged off the streets in Tehran, I've never seen that happen myself.
But
this
that
is like
mean
when
it
they keep
hasn't
saying
happened,
gays in Iran are executed. I've never seen a gay person in Iran executed.
But
this is sort
that doesn't
of
mean it's
myth
never happened. Does it?
No.
Just because you haven't seen a woman being dragged off the streets doesn't mean it hasn't happened.
No, I'm not saying it's never happened.
And you are wrong to say, if I can just say, you are wrong to say that Mahsa Amini had no injuries. She had physical injuries, including a skull fracture and brain edema.
No, she didn't. No.
Well, an independent medical analysis and a UN fact-finding mission determined that she did.
There was no UN fact-finding mission in Iran. Where are you getting this information? What was the name of the UN fact-finding mission team, the name of the person who did this?
I don't have that in front of me, but I can find it for you. But you can say that about any statement that I make.
No, but the thing is that
I could do it back to you.
No, because you can't, because the point is that you have to give me names. If I say in the UK, people are being arrested for saying no to genocide, for having a billboard in their hands, no to genocide, they're being arrested for that. I have to show footage of it happening. And I have to show the law saying that this is how it's done. And when you tell me that if you tell me, has a woman ever been dragged away? I'll say yes. If you say that have people been beaten on the streets by the police, I'd say yes. In protests and riots, it happens. Well, if you tell me innocent people have died in Iran in prisons, I'd say probably yes.
Well, it's interesting.
But when you tell, and I would say the same about your country as well. And I would say the same about your country. But in your country and in the West, the caricature of Iran is very far from reality. And the reason is because of your country's hatred for Iran, which has been ongoing for 45 years. If Iran was so deeply despised, then it should have collapsed by now, so long ago.
But when you say,
then your government and your media is concerned about human rights in Iran, where you support Israel, not you, I mean your government, you support Israel, you help Israel in Gaza, you have the flights that go overhead.
We support the rights of Iranians as well. We support the rights of Iranians.
No, you don't. You actually, you are a country that tries to harm Iranians because you impose sanctions on ordinary Iranians. The maximum pressure sanctions. Do you think the maximum pressure sanctions hurt a government minister?
You know the reasons.
They're intended to make ordinary people suffer.
You might not like it, but you know the reasons for that. I mean, can I just come back to you on one thing?
What are the reasons? Because since I don't like it, you should tell me. What are the reasons for the sanctions?
The reasons include the proxy terrorist activity that's been, I would argue, I'm sure you are going to disagree with me, but the proxy terrorist activity that Iran has been involved in for decades.
What are these
now.
Who are these
Hezbollah,
terrorists?
Hamas, others arming Syria.
So Hezbollah you consider as a terrorist organization, right?
In part.
No. In part?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Is it a terrorist organization?
In part.
Is it a terrorist
in the same way that the Republican movement in Northern Ireland was in part
terroristic. No, in the same way that your government is a terrorist organization in part. Your government is a terrorist organization.
Is that your view?
That doesn't make sense. Either you're a terrorist or you're not.
No, organizations can be partly terroristic and partly political. You know that.
Just for your information, Hezbollah was created out of the Israeli invasion of Lebanon. It was a creation of the occupation. Just like the ANC was a terrorist organization and Nelson Mandela was a terrorist according to your government standards at the time. Hezbollah was created when the Israelis invaded Lebanon and took Beirut.
But you do know, surely, as an academic, that organizations can be terroristic and political and have wings which are both, and social as well. The Republican movement in Ireland certainly did.
So you're saying that the political wing of Hezbollah is not a terrorist organization?
It has connections to a terrorist organization, yeah, but it operates on different levels.
So it's not a terrorist organization?
In part, it is.
Look, I know you don't want to answer the question. From our perspective, Hezbollah is a national liberation organization that has recovered the South Lebanon and saved Lebanon from Israeli occupation and colonization.
Okay.
And Hezbollah's sin is that it supports the Palestinian people. Hezbollah has been resisting the Israeli regime, and it opposes the regime and the ethnic cleansing and the genocide. Your government, your media supports the genocide. You like Israel. You like what they do, and you consider them to be in your camp. Obviously, we have huge differences because Hezbollah has not carried out mass slaughter, and Israel has. And your government supports despots, countries that have zero elections, but they're not regimes.
But Hezbollah did carry out mass firing of missiles into Israel as well, just to report a fact back at you.
Israel invaded Lebanon multiple times. It took Beirut, and Israel bombs intentionally apartment blocks in Lebanon.
What we just witnessed is the total failure of mainstream narrative policing. For decades, legacy news networks have operated under a simple assumption. They control the parameters of the debate. Anchors like Shelagh Fogarty aren't sent out to investigate or find the truth. They are deployed to enforce an establishment line. They rely on aggressive interruptions, emotional framing, and selective historical amnesia to keep guests on the defensive. But Professor Marandi completely exposed the structural rot of corporate media by doing the one thing they are totally unprepared for. He refused to bow to their authority. When an anchor relies entirely on talking points rather than deep systemic facts, their credibility evaporates the second a guest aggressively checks their premises. Fogarty wasn't just losing an argument, she was losing control of the room. This isn't just about a bad interview on UK television. This is about how consent is manufactured for devastating global conflicts. When corporate media outlets operate as echo chambers for foreign policy hawks, they actively insulate Western audiences from the actual ground-level consequences of these geopolitical decisions. Connect the dots to our reality right now in late May 2026. As the media tries to moralize the Israel-Iran conflict, they are ignoring the catastrophic fallout. The Strait of Hormuz has been effectively closed for months, triggering what analysts are calling the greatest energy security challenge in history. Crude oil prices are skyrocketing, LNG exports are stranded, and global supply chains are choking. The working class is absorbing the brutal cost of this through soaring inflation and energy shocks, while anchors on television continue to trivialize the staggering human and economic reality in favor of superficial moral posturing. When the old guard can no longer use their media platforms to shame dissenters into silence, their monopoly on information shatters. This clash proves that audiences are completely exhausted by manufactured corporate scripts and are actively turning toward independent, critical analysis. If you are ready for political commentary that refuses to validate the establishment playbook and actually deconstructs the power structures shaping our world, hit that like button and subscribe to Pillarism. We're breaking down the mainstream media theater every single week, and we need you in the fight. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next breakdown.